And but yeah, and then the second half kind of belonged to the right edge rather than the left edge that we've talked often about for why with Mamo getting a try and Charlie getting a hat trick in that period. So yeah, and I think that's actually something that's maybe flown a little bit below the radar, have needed to be addressed. Why as wingers weren't scoring like frequently enough this year. Charlie had a really lean year last year and hadn't started on fire this year, but that hat trick might get him back into the swing of things. It does seem like they can win these Super League games without defending very well because their attack can do enough. And then it was those two Catalan games where we saw their defence come to the fore. They're probably going to need to strengthen up their defence come the autumn, but they've got a bit of time to sort that out. And for now, I think the Wire fans will just be happy seeing a bit better attacking play and Gareth Widdop being central to that. Will they be worried about maybe Widdop might be going early to make space for Williams? Because how the fuck will he afford Williams this year? I get that they were always favourites when Williams was wanting to come back for next year because, you know, money bags and definitely cap space with both the NRL players looking likely to be let go. But anyway, that's another aside. The worrying thing is, would that disrupt the team if they have to make changes this year to fit Williams in? Because Widdop is the key man right now. He's playing so well.
Yeah, it does make you wonder if there's some other deals that are under discussion as we speak. Whether GI's injury is a long-term thing or, you know, I don't know, something of that kind of nature. In terms of the game, I mean, I've only seen the highlights, but Wire looked impressive as they have done at times this year. I just have a word for Wakey that he seemed like they hung into the match. You know, this could have easily got way away from them, but whilst the tries might not have been the greatest piece of defence you've ever seen, at least Wakefield was still pushing for the chances, and they did notch a couple of reasonably good tries. So,
and when you talk about fight, actually, you know, from their point of view, I criticise the Wire defence on the Fafita and the Kershaw tries, but from their point of view, that showed their players showing fight to get those balls down.
Yes,
you know, so you've got to credit that and say that they're not giving in, are they? That,
no.
You know, it doesn't feel the same as how Salford felt,
exactly,
or even how Castleford a little bit felt. There was no letting the game go, even though the game had gone.
That you still felt that they were interested in the match rather than as you say, Salford kind of let it get away in the last 10-15 minutes, didn't they? So yeah. But other than that, I don't have much else to say about that one.
Nope. Let's move on.
Okay, so the last game in the Super League this weekend was Lee against Catalan. Perhaps way closer than any of us predicted in our tipping. Yeah. It finished Catalan 36, Lee 30. Lee actually were ahead at half-time, 18-12, and Tom Grant was in charge. Unfortunately, don't have complete team stats on this one, but from individual point of view, Tom Davis had a try and 154 metres. Mikhail Gudemon had 154 metres. Fuad Yaha with 139 metres. And Samisoni Langi with a try and 133 metres. For Lee, Junior Sau had a try assist and 122 metres. Ian Thornley with 109 metres. And Nathaniel Petteru with 106 metres and 4 offloads.
Yeah, the player whose stats were missing would have made the stats roundup because it was Ben Reynolds and he went 95 metres for his try. We had one fan view in. Alan Walker said, definitely struggled to get used to the heat at first, but then played a bit, put the cue on the rack and switched off for the last 10 minutes. Eldrax play with fire again. Sack the coach.
Sack them on the top. That's the way to do it.
We're going to talk about the standings in a minute, Alan. I'll
But yeah, I mean, obviously, I've just seen highlights of this one. Obviously, early on, Lee managed to intercept a couple of Catalan attacks and put themselves comfortably in the lead. But we all know that Lee can't hang on to a lead this year. And as Alan suggested, the Dragons woke up and actually played some really good stuff, some good tries. But yeah, it felt like there were some big gaps in defence as much as it was good play. And a late rally from Lee was not really quite enough to get them back, even though it was much, much closer than anybody could have predicted between the top and bottom teams in the league.
Yeah, there was the 2 intercept tries, but I think they need to be distinguished from each other because Brendan Elliott's try was really overplaying the hand by Catalans in their own 20. And
that's true. Yeah.
It was really quite loose and not that complicated to get in and intercept it. But the try for Ben Reynolds, I mean, it was a really good read for him to get involved in it. It was where it was underneath, kind of close to the sticks, close to the defensive line. It was a play that needed to be made, was made. And then the fact that he managed to get all the way to the far corner, just getting in, just outpacing the Catalans. Mike McMee can put up a honourable chase back for the Dragons, but you've got to say, massive well done to Ben Reynolds for scoring that try. Maybe if it was the 78th minute and not the second minute, he might not have had the gas. But I thought, huge credit to him on that try.
Yeah, no, I probably do. As you say, bunching them together, I perhaps do it a slight disservice. But yeah, are Lee going to be able to get themselves a win this year? Because actually, this was, quietly a good chance to actually pull off a massive surprise. And for whatever reason, they just, I'm unconvinced that they've got what it takes to put together a performance to win.
Well, it looks like Catalans only had to put on a performance for half an hour to win.
Yeah.
And we saw another highlight sizzle reel moment from young Arthur Morg, didn't we, for his try? I mean, the way he can break so many tackles, accelerate away from the defenders so effortlessly, and find himself in good positions just constantly is hopefully a really positive sign of the career to come for this youngster. And he had another moment of that to go and look back on for his try. And I think his try was the try that kind of sealed it. Although Lee got a couple of late scores themselves, I don't think that... I don't suspect that Catalans were really worried. I don't know because I didn't watch it, obviously, but they obviously took the foot off the gas and thought they had a big enough winning margin, and they did, ultimately.
Yeah.
How many times have Lee scored first, though? It feels like almost every game Lee are scoring first. So it's not even like they're not putting themselves in positions to win. It's just fundamentally they are not good enough.
Yeah, it's as you say, it's a little bit more than them just being not in games, because they've been in a lot of games this year. Out of the games they've played, they've probably been in half of them, either leading at half time or scoring first or being there or thereabouts. But then it feels like they fall apart defensively more than anything else. And yeah, there's yawning gaps in defence that they can't cover. So
yeah, it just feels like they're just not good enough for an 80-minute Super League contest.
Doesn't feel like it.
Do you want to kind of put the sack the coach comment into context by taking us through the standings, Alan?
So I will. Catalan go top with an 88.89%.
Sack the coach.
With a 88. Sack the coach. 88.89% win rate. With their extra game pushing them above Saints and Wigan, who are on 87.5%. Warrington complete the top four on 72.22. Hull FC are next on 61.11, and Hull KR on 55.56 make up the top six. Cast, Leeds, Huddersfield and Wakefield are the closest to playoff chasers. Salford still just have one win, and Lee are yet to win at the bottom of the league.
We did have a couple of lines in on the two postponed matches. Huddersfield versus Wigan, EFC 78JU said, gutted this game is also off due to Huddersfield players being tested positive. Hopefully they can recover and get back to their camp and train for the win. And Wigan are lucky St Helens didn't play either. This game was one of the R-League broadcasts as well. Warrington versus Wakefield being another that might be rescheduled during the Challenge Cup final week, which is an advantage for Wigan to close the gap. So, yeah, I think it, although I'm gutted that the game didn't go ahead because I was so looking forward to go. As I talked about on last week's show, I expected Wigan to lose this match. And I think it is a benefit to Wigan that this match didn't go ahead now, and we will, you suspect, play it on the Sunday or the Friday night of Cup final weekend because Wigan and Huddersfield both have a free weekend that weekend. The other game, Leeds Rhinos versus St Helens, EFC 78JU got in touch as well and said, I am gutted this game got postponed, but hopefully the ones that were tested positive recover and get their team back on track. This was supposed to be the Sky TV game until the RFL confirmed the postponement of the game. It might be rescheduled whenever St Helens are available. I can't see where St Helens are going to be available. This game is not going to get played. I just... You know, they've got the cup final in the only gap that exists, really. We don't even have a gap for the international game.
No, it is looking. It's looking like this one might bite the dust as one of the games that doesn't happen, unfortunately.
Now it does seem that Huddersfield are back in training, albeit in a limited capacity, so should get their game on this week. Leeds, however, are sweating on some more positive test results here, and they might not be able to play their game against Catalans. Now that game, if it doesn't go ahead this week, will have the opportunity to be rescheduled for the cup final weekend, you would think. One thing that people might have talked about and suggested as well is, why couldn't Saints and Wigan have moved their game in the squash 2 games into a week that's coming up in a few weeks, and played it this weekend instead? And I think if St Helens had been at home against Leeds, maybe that would have been possible, as they would have already had tickets allocated to their fans, and their capacity and season ticketing situation doesn't allow for away fans anyway. So maybe that would have been a possibility. But unlike last year, where teams didn't have commercial considerations and safety certificates and considerations to take into the whole conversation around moving games, that is a fact this year. I think for the playing staffs it would have been beneficial if they played this week, but for the St Helens will have been one of those people hoping that the government didn't delay and they could have got a bigger attendance in for that game at the start of July. But now they'll probably be wishing they thought more about swapping the game, seeing as they won't be able to expand the crowd. But yeah, it's a shame and a reminder that this thing ain't gone away, and clubs need to get their players back on a leash a little bit for a month or so.
Yeah, we're definitely reaching that congestion, fixture congestion period of the year, aren't we? So yeah, we don't need players going down if we can avoid it.
Stat line of the week for me was between two Hull KR players, but I'm going to give it to the one who had a bit more of a rounded stats list. So Kenny Dowell with 1 try, 12 tackle busts, 210 metres, 3 clean breaks and 3 successful offloaders gets the stat line of the week for me.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. He's the clear stat line player, I would say.
Player of the week, who would you pull out as your player of the week?
I wanted to give it to a Hull forward, and I was debating who to give it to. So based on stats and based on, because he went both ways, I've given it to Jordan Lane.
Yeah, and he might have to be their auxiliary safety option, at centre, if they don't want to give that young guy, Jude Pereira, is it? Ferreira? No, Pereira played for football. Ferreira, is it? I can't remember. Anyway, a go. Jordan Lane looks like the option there, so his versatility helps him as well, doesn't it, as his performances. I'm going to stick with Sean Kenny-Dowell. I think he's been massive for Hull KR, and just as important